Hello, and welcome to Why Did My Builder Do That? The weekly podcast that will answer your questions about home design, home building, and much more. Of course, we will be asking, why did my builder do that? But sometimes we will ask, why didn't my builder do that? Or, will my builder do that? Or even, does my builder know about this? Each week, we will tackle new questions and hopefully provide insight into designing, choosing a builder, building, financing, and even maintaining or remodeling a home. From time to time, we will be looking at why or how something went wrong, but we will be asking about new building products and new building techniques. Along the way, we will also be talking about building standards and warranties. We invite you to email us questions, and we will make every effort to include them in future podcasts, or at the least, we will send back information or a comment on your questions. Email us at WDMBDT@gmail.com. Why would my builder do that? Join us now for Why Did My Builder Do That?
Hello, and welcome to Why Did My Builder Do That? Again, your hosts, Gary Dunn and Joe Bronson, and we have a very special guest today, Chris Stout from CBS Home Inspections. And we'll talk about things today as to what's going on with home inspections, both for new construction possibly and also for existing homes. And Chris will share with us, I hope, maybe what it is, some of the things that he does, how he works when he goes to do the process, and maybe have just a couple of photos that we might see some great things. And oh my gosh, who knows, we might see some really silly things. So again, welcome, Chris. We're greatly appreciative that you're here, and I'd like to just turn it over to you and say, hey, tell us about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, so we do home inspections, throughout basically the entire state. I mean, we'll go wherever anybody wants us to go. We've been doing this for about almost 14 years. So we've seen quite a bit. How we kind of like to do home inspections is when we go to a house, we kind of turn everything on, kind of put a load on the electrical system, and then we'll start outside. We'll do the exterior, get on the roof, and then we will do the garage, and then go inside, start in the attic, and just work our way room by room down to and finish in the crawl or the basement. We'll take electric panel cover off. We'll get all your information on furnaces, water heater, air conditioner. We test every single window we can get to, every outlet, every appliance. So we try to put as much information as possible in a report for the client, big and small, just so they have that info. A lot of it may be small and petty, but it's just good information to have.
Well, that makes sense. Let me ask you a question. Back in the day, back when I actually worked on my automobile and knew how to change my oil. I can't even figure that out these days. But I went to sell a car one time that had a really bad engine, and I took it to a guy, and he said, "Look, here's what you do. Don't need to spend any money. Drop a super ball into the engine. It'll melt. It'll seal everything up. You can sell the car, and the guy won't know it's a problem until a month later." Now, I didn't do that, but I've often wondered, is there anything homeowners that you've caught them trying to do to try to make a bad situation short-term fix? Have you ever encountered that?
Sure. I mean, fresh smelling paint's always a dead giveaway.
Right. Right.
Just new everything. New flooring can cover up smells. Finishing a basement wall can cover up some severe foundation issues. And it's way cheaper to just put a facade on that wall than it is to fix the wall.
Lipstick on a pig?
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, there's certain clues that you just, flipped houses always, they show better in the pictures online than when you get to them and you start looking at the detail, and the finished work is where you see really how good the contractor was.
Right. What
Well,
speaking of that, have you done much? And Joe mentioned it. New construction. Are you primarily an existing house inspector, or do you get involved in new construction very often?
I mean, we're primarily existing, but yeah, I mean, we'll do some new builds. They're just the code and the building inspector process kind of negates a lot of what we would look for. But as in shoddy work, we can catch that during like a pre-drywall inspection,
Right.
pre-installation inspection. That's a lot of the time we'll go in, and then we'll do the final inspection too, like maybe 10 days before closing, just to, you normally don't find a whole lot, but it's peace of mind for the buyer because the houses today are ridiculously priced. So
no kidding.
they want to
Well,
get every single thing they can out of the builder before they sign.
look. The sellers we represent think that that's an outrageous statement there, Chris. So I mean, they think their pricing is very fair and reasonable. But I would agree with you. So,
I would too.
but
And so,
yeah, I recall. Well, I mean, egg on my face, but I recall a home that we built probably 25 years ago, and we got a call from the lady 10 or 15 years after she'd been in the house. And she just wondered why her utility bills were always high and this one room was always cold. And the insulator had never insulated the ceiling above a room over the garage. So hopefully that's the kind of thing that someone like yourself would catch in that last second inspection. That my superintendent never caught it. I didn't catch it. The inspector never caught it. And unfortunately, neither did the homeowner until many years afterward. I actually fixed the problem and paid her some money for her utility bills over the year, and she ended up being pleased that we did that. But that's one of those things that can get missed in an odd area in a house, ceiling insulation for sure.
well, that just shows, Gary, that you indeed are a great American.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. I'll salute you, buddy. So,
Well, it is interesting that from a new construction aspect that, over the years of me being a builder as well and so on, you get the question from the homeowner that says, hey, do you think I ought to should I hire an outside home inspector? Well, I want to say I'm the builder. No, I'm going to build your home to what I told you I was going to build it, and we're going to build it to code. But you brought up a good point, Chris, and that is peace of mind. So when you do go out, when it is new construction, even though you don't do a lot of it, but when you do it, is it anything that you kind of work with the builder or coordinate with the builder, information that you're going to be sharing with the homeowner?
Usually not. I mean, when we do these new builds, the builders know where they don't come around because I don't think, I mean, they kind of think the way what you just said there. They're the builder. They're going to do it the right way regardless. And they kind of just stay out of the way.
Well, that makes sense. And I guess it's one of those things that I've been in that environment before where there's been an inspection report. I'm always impressed by how comprehensive and thorough it is. But I will say that it takes a little bit of time to walk through the process when it comes to a homeowner, to just share with them what is and what's a code and what have you. But I do recall one specific situation that was in Alexandria that our lumber company did an absolute abomination of trusses. I don't know how we all missed it. I don't know how our superintendent missed it, but we had to get quite a bit of repair and one of your folks in your industry showed us pictures and brought things up. And quite honestly, it was very embarrassing that it was going to be a structural issue. So that's a fine example of why it might be a good idea to just go ahead and hire an outside inspector, someone specific as Chris Stout at CBS Home Inspection, to be able to point out those types of things, not to be troublesome, but to simply make it easier for all parties involved to make certain that things are taken care of. And I was greatly appreciative of the inspector that went out. Embarrassed, but appreciative.
You have someone that's totally a disinterested party and has no skin in the game and no emotion to go along with it. Far too often in our life, we've had, I think, Joe, you'd agree, we've had Uncle Ed who built, many warehouses 15 years ago, and he's now going to come and be the inspector, but he's emotionally tied to the client. And it's far better off to have somebody that's, been in the industry, understands the industry, and is completely disinterested. To that extent, Chris, what did you do before you became an inspector?
Well, I was an electrician right before, industrial, commercial electrician.
Okay.
And then before that, I did construction, and I did all the factory stuff right out of high school. So, but yeah, I love the electrical work. I got injured, so I couldn't go back to that. So I had to find just a less taxing career, and I found it,
Sure.
and I love it.
So crawling all over a roof and in attics and so forth is less taxing, huh?
Well, just when you're an industrial electrician, that big, heavy stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I just don't lift anything now.
Right. Joe and I couldn't even throw a breaker on one of those big panels. So, I mean,
No
I know what you're talking about.
No way.
So,
Yeah. Well, one thing that I wanted to just kind of jump in, and that is when it comes to an existing home, obviously my world is in the existing market anymore, opposed to new construction where it used to be. Do you find that when you are doing an inspection, more importantly, when you are composing your report, do you ever find that as you're writing it and you're doing pictures, do you ever get the sense of there is no way this seller is going to pay to make this happen? The repair, if it will.
I mean, I would think almost all the stuff in our reports, the seller probably wouldn't want to fix. Like, I kind of look at it as if the deal falls through, would the current seller want it fixed? Then they'll probably fix it. Like a water leak or an HVAC condensation line leak in the attic. I mean, stuff like that, I think they would fix because they would want it fixed. But most of the stuff, grading, we find grading on every single house, poor grading somewhere, and they're not going to fix it. So, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff I think they wouldn't fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also one of those things that as you're writing a report, you've got the listing agent who's sitting there going, oh my gosh, look at all this stuff that needs to be taken care of, because they don't know it when they walk through a house. You've got the seller that's thinking, man, there is no way I'm going to spend these dollar bills. But I guess what you're doing is it's not a matter of saying, hey, spend the money to fix it. You're simply saying, I'm reporting this information to keep everyone apprised of what's going on when it comes to the items in which I'm finding. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, I mean, because we're doing a visual inspection. So anything that we see that is not normal, we write it up. I mean, specifically us, CBS, I mean, we write up everything we see, wear and tear, everything, because, a client, when they're walking through the house, they're seeing the kitchen, they're seeing the bathroom, the finished basement. Like they're not looking at anything else.
Yeah.
And no details at all. They're just looking at the shiny. So
The pretty.
the pretty. So yeah, we just try to put every detail in the report, and it's kind of, most of it's just a to-do list. But
Yeah.
it's just that I do them the way that I would want my home inspection done. That's how I do them.
Well, that's cool.
So yeah.
I know some inspectors have programs that actually they will price out repairs or give a price range for repairs. Do you do that, Chris?
We don't. I've looked into it, but there's so much difference in pricing in it. Today, everything's so skyrocketed on pricing that
Right.
you don't want to undershoot them. You would rather overshoot it, and then they get good news instead of undershoot it and then they get bad news from
Right.
a contractor. And the good contractors are going to cost more than the people that have no work. So we just kind of stay out of that so we don't look bad.
I got you.
We want
Yeah,
to try to give
that makes
accurate
sense.
info.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because not only that, because there's I guess there's a liability issue there in a sense when it comes to pricing, but more importantly, then you have to keep it updated, right?
Yeah.
So it's, if oh my gosh, I forgot to update all my pricing, and I did that a year ago, and it's like, that can be a big issue. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where either a seller, buyer, or an agent, whether it's representing the buyer or the seller, have you ever had anybody that wants to kind of argue or fight with you as to some of your findings, or are they pretty calm?
All the above. I mean, we've had buyer's agents that say our wording is too strong, and but we take into effect the whole situation. So if the buyer don't show up to the job, we're more our verbiage is going to be stronger because we weren't able to show them anything during the walkthrough. So our verbiage is different than if they're there or not there. And that's on the buyer's agent side. The seller's agent side, they think we're too thorough. And then the builders always push back on, because these new materials today, they're all like recycled materials. So none of them like water. So there's these specific install instructions that should be followed, and a lot of times they're not. And then we'll call it out on an inspection, and then the builder says, well, we installed it per manufacturer's install requirements. And they still might not be doing it, but they interpret it that they did. And I'm interpreting it my way too. But when you're looking at those manufacturer install instructions, I think they're pretty black and white to me. But I'm sure there's wiggle room and all that stuff. So, and the materials just don't like water. So, 5 years down the road, that's a long time to collect water in some of these new smart sidings and smart trims, because it's basically sawdust that they form into boards, and then they countersink the nails, and then water gets in around those nails for years, and it just ruins the material. And at that point, there's nobody to blame. They can't go back to the builder in 5 years because they get like a 1-year warranty or whatever. So yeah, we try. So yeah, we get pushback from everybody, but we get blamed for everything. So, we're used to it.
I'm gonna pop a screen. You were kind enough to share some pictures with us, and I'm gonna pop over to it and just tell us a little bit about what you're seeing there, whether it's a code violation, poor work, or just things that you observe on inspections, and maybe give us maybe the worst thing you've ever seen. Although this B vent resting on wood looks like it might be one of the worst things I've ever seen, but
the truss, the rafter actually being cut.
that's no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the picture. Was there's actually spacing around that pipe. It's just they
okay.
cut
Well,
that
so
truss for
okay.
that pipe to go through. And yeah, I mean, it's funny how, because me being an electrician, you see how all this happens on job sites. You
Yeah.
know, the architect draws the print nice and pretty, and then the contractors come in and they just butcher everything to get their work done, you know, which is pretty typical. But yeah, the top right one, no railing on the steps. And this is an FHA loan inspection, so the spacing in the railings too big, so a baby or a pet could fall off the railing. This retaining wall that the little porch is sitting on, it's leaning just from the grading. All the
Sure.
water's going to the left and pushing on that wall. This bottom left picture, that was some tornado damage up at Indian Lake. Just blew through a trailer park and damaged a lot of the roof, a lot of the siding, all the skirting. And I sent you a couple other ones of
some severe damage. I just thought, well, that's not a typical home inspection.
No,
thing.
well, no, that was from doing inspections up at Indian Lake after the tornado.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
that was horrible.
yeah. And then this bottom right picture, no weep holes in brick. You know, see that constantly.
Yeah.
And then there's no flashing at the top of that brick ledge. And then water obviously just gets behind her and rots everything out over time. So,
Well, other than that, how'd you like to play Mrs. Lincoln?
Right.
Yeah, that looks like a disaster waiting to happen. And yeah,
it
you're
does.
talking about weeps. I mean, I don't think I ever had a job where the mason forgot the weeps, but I've sure had plenty of people plug them up because they just don't like that. They either that little piece of string or that little gap there. They just, why is that there? I don't want that there. I caulked it. Well, okay, great. Well, that's causing
I pushed
the
that wick back in the hole and then I sealed it up. Oh, great. That's super.
Yeah.
Yeah. The masonry, the stucco's a big problem with no screed. And
right.
So, I mean, I don't even really see it on new builds anymore. It's all hardy plank. And now you got like the LP smart siding now, but it's all about installation,
Yeah.
All those materials are great if they're installed right, but most of the time they're just incorrectly installed. So, yeah, the faux stone, that's probably going to be the new stucco, where they just poor install, but you don't catch it for years. So, but it is what it is. But yeah, we just keep writing it up.
Well, I know that can be a little frustrating. I spent a short time just inspecting properties for one of the local companies here that did low income housing, and they had me involved in inspecting work of another contractor as a consultant, and that repetition of the same mistakes over and over and over again gets a little old. And I'm sure you get tired of writing the same thing repeatedly, but you're performing a service that homeowners hopefully appreciate, that they're not buying a disaster. So that's the scary part. You and I were talking before we started about people that they're waiving home inspection, and that just seemed like a recipe for a $10,000 or $20,000 bill about a year or 2 years down the road that maybe could have been avoided, especially since they spent $20,000 over ask to buy the property too. So that's kind of a double hit. But what's the craziest thing you ever saw in a home inspection?
Oh,
naked
man.
lady,
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I've walked in on a dead person twice.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. dead
my
person
goodness.
in bed and a dead person laying on the kitchen floor.
Wow.
That was pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Uh,
I imagine.
yeah, but
Do you have a spot in the report to write that up, Chris? Dead body in kitchen needs to be
no, both of
removed
those
before
got,
closing.
yeah, both of those got postponed.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah,
Yeah, we had to call the squad and the police and the sheriff,
sure.
and then we just got out of there and came back another day.
It's
Man,
never a good thing when you have to report a postmortem on a house
Yeah.
before closing.
No.
Yeah, and the buyer was there. I
Oh,
mean,
my goodness.
it was awkward, yeah. But
I would say that's a soft word. Awkward. I think it would be crazy.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure it would probably make the women more uneasy than the men because he didn't act like he cared when we seen the bodies. But
Oh,
like if
okay.
my wife would have seen it, yeah, she'd be like, "We're not buying this house," you know.
Yeah.
Well, Miss Marple's first clue would be that he was the murderer. So if he didn't care, so I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Wow.
out of questions, Joe.
Well,
I don't know if you've got anything
Oh, go
left,
ahead.
but
I am the same. Chris, do you kind of want to wrap it up again as to I guess this is the time that we look at you and go, if you want to have a commercial, this is it. And there's no cost for it. So if you want to share some things about CBS home inspections, go for it, man.
Sure. Yeah, like I said earlier, we've been doing this a long time. We do home inspections, radon tests, termite inspections. I can do air quality sampling, wells and septics, sewer scopes on the horizon. I do have a drone, so we do some drone stuff. We'd rather walk the roof, but sometimes you can't. So, we have a nice drone that we can get good video and good pictures on. We'll go anywhere people want us to go. We don't say no to anybody. So, but primarily we're Columbus up 33 to Indian Lake. So Indian Lake to Columbus is our majority of our work, but people are finding us everywhere. So, if they want us, we'll go. But yeah, I mean, you can schedule with us at cbshi.com. You can get on our website and find all of our services, all of our pricing, schedule right there. You pick the day and time, and it's all done all electronically. So if you never wanted to show up to the inspection, it can all be done on the phone, and then everything is delivered electronically as well. So again, that's cbshi.com, or you can call the office 937-935-8949, and we can set you up manually in the office.
fantastic. Well,
That's
thanks
awesome,
for joining
Chris.
us today.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for
And,
having me.
Think about things in the future. Maybe we'll have you back on and talk about some more. Well, not dead bodies, but maybe something fun. So,
I'd be happy to.
Maybe something just like radon testing. We'll just leave it at that.
yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah.
We can do that.
All right,
Well-
Joe, bring us home like always.
Okay. Well, again, I would just want to thank you, Chris, for being a guest today. It was a pleasure to talk with you and just chat. It's nice to know that I've used your services on houses, and I can attest to the fact of how comprehensive and great the reports have been. So thank you for being here. For our viewers, please look forward to your questions. Send those in. You may find us having an episode around your questions when it comes to having our future podcasts. You can send us an email. Obviously, you'll see the information for Chris's company in this podcast if you pull that back up on our website. But if you also want to just send us questions, send us an email at WDMBDT. Why did my builder do that? .gmail.com. And again, you may find another episode that's got your question there or comment when it comes to what we might do next. So please look forward and reach out to our website. And we'll see you the next time on future podcasts.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See y'all.